I live solely for myself. I love only myself. And there's no end to it as long as there are still people to kill in this world. I will never disappear.
Love is beautiful. Love is ugly. Love is happiness. Love is pain. The concept of love is one of the most misunderstood ideals of all time. Throughout history, there has never been a consensus on what love is. The Greeks have 7 different words for the different types of love, such as eros, meaning romantic love, or storge, meaning familial love or love of family. Plato describes love as the motivation that leads one to try and know and contemplate beauty in itself. J. Cole, in a more modern attempt, describes love as wanting more for someone else than you want for yourself. While all of these attempts of explaining love can help you conceptualize love, ultimately we all have a self-imposed notion of what love is. Everyone, through our own life experiences and relationships with others, create our own idea of what love is, whether we realize it or not. Because our perception of love is based on our own experiences, our conception of self-love is dependent on how we view love in general. This is why I chose Gaara as the focus for this video. His story perfectly depicts how a lack of love can cause you to develop a skewed meaning of love and ultimately lead toward a path filled with hatred. When we're introduced to Gaara, he had no perception of outward love. His entire conception of love consisted of fighting for and protecting himself and only himself. Because he had no notion of showing love, he fell into an abyss of hatred. In order to better understand how Gaara became this way, we have to look at his backstory for the full picture. Before Gaara's birth, his father, the 4th Kazekage, decided to make Gaara the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed beast Shikaku. Lady Chiyo sealed Shikaku inside Gaara while he was still in his mother's womb. This caused birth complications, which led to Gaara's mother Karua dying shortly after birth. Before dying, Karua promised to always protect him. Gaara grew up isolated due to being a Jinchuriki. He was taught ninjutsu by his father and cared for by his uncle Yashimaru. Due to being a Jinchuriki, the villagers stayed away from Gaara. Adults avoided him and treated him delicately, while children ran on sight. Gaara always tried to be kind and show them he meant no harm. However, in the process, he would often inadvertently injure or even kill them with the sand. At this point, Gaara had no conception of pain because the sand always protected him from physical injuries. Gaara wanted to understand the pain that he inflicted on others, so he asked Yashimaru to explain what pain was. Yashimaru explained what physical pain is, then Gaara realized that he in fact did feel pain. Not physical pain, but pain in his heart. Pain from a lack of love despite his efforts of trying to be a kind and gentle person. Yashimaru then explained to Gaara that while physical pain can be healed with medicine, the only way to heal the pain of the heart is with love. He reassures Gaara that his mother's love is still present through the sand that protects him, and that Yashimaru himself loves Gaara. After hearing this, Gaara goes to give one of the kids he accidentally hurt medicine, but the gesture was met with more fear and hate. Gaara goes off on his own to try to understand why he's viewed as a monster no matter what he does, and while he's alone, an assassination attempt is made on his life. After severely injuring the attacker, Gaara goes to see who it is and finds Yashimaru. Confused and wondering why, Yashimaru tells him that he was ordered by Gaara's father, the Kazekage. This makes Gaara feel relieved, thinking Yashimaru had no choice. However, Yashimaru explains that's not the case. He tells Gaara that he never loved him and neither did his mother. He always hated Gaara, in fact, and blamed him for his sister's death. Before dying, Yashimaru tells Gaara that his mother, Karua, gave him that name because it means demon that loves only himself. She wanted him to fight only for himself so he could continue to exist. However, this was not out of love. Karua hated and cursed the world, and she saw Gaara as the perfect catalyst to make her wish come true. Yashimaru ultimately tells Gaara that he was never loved. Something important to note about this whole situation is that the 4th Kazekage specifically sent Yashimaru with this information on purpose. His plan was to turn Gaara into a weapon for the sand, being the Jinchuriki. His plan worked, however, as we see later, Gaara was a weapon that he could not control. The Gaara we meet during the Chunin exams is nothing like his younger self. After his last encounter with Yashimaru, Gaara branded the Japanese kanji for love into his forehead. He lived from that moment forward, vowing to only love and protect himself. The problem is that because of Gaara's past, he has no real perception of what love feels like. Throughout Gaara's entire life, he was only shown hatred by others, and found out that even the one person he thought loved him in the end hated him. This caused him to only understand how to project hatred out into the world. This is why when Gaara saw a guy step in to protect Lee, he couldn't understand why he would do something like that. Gaara even tried to assassinate Lee after the fight. I mentioned before, we all create our own conception of love based on our perceptions of the world and the people in it. Someone who grows up in a loving environment with a kind and gentle family will be more liable to be more kind and gentle to others. A child who grows up in a toxic and negative environment is likely to grow up to be more toxic and negative. This is why Naruto is the perfect antithesis to Gaara. Both were young Jinchurikis who were isolated because of it. However, Gaara is a product of lack of love over time, while Naruto found that love in people like Iruka Sensei, Shikamaru, Choji, and many others. The fight between Naruto and Gaara is heavily centered around their difference in values and worldviews. Because Naruto started on a similar path to Gaara, he didn't look at him as just a monster like everybody else. He sees Gaara as an extension of himself, a path that he could have easily gone down had it not been for the love he received from others. This is why Naruto cares so much about explaining to Gaara how much his comrades mean to him. Naruto explains to Gaara that because they saved him from his loneliness, he cares about them more than he does himself, and he vows to protect them no matter what. Naruto learned through his encounters with friends that people who care for each other protect their friends at the cost of their own pain. This moment is confusing for Gaara because this person he thought was his enemy is reinforcing the same ideal about love that Yashimaru had taught him. That love is about serving someone else who is precious to you. Up until this point, Gaara had felt his purpose for being alive was to kill everybody else. Because Gaara was only shown hatred and not love by others growing up, he came to the conclusion that everybody should be treated as an enemy first. This is his skewed idea of self-love based on preservation by any means. After learning that the source of Naruto's strength is his will to protect others, Gaara starts to live his life in imitation of Naruto. Gaara realizes that Naruto lived the same life as him, however he didn't let the hatred consume him. Naruto left room for people to come into his life and give him the love that he was missing. Naruto's words and actions connected with Gaara and inspired him to do the same for others. He wanted to be viewed as someone precious to others rather than just a weapon of the sand. He planned to achieve this by once again attempting to build connections with the people around him. As a child, Gaara was loving despite the circumstances he faced. The abrupt reveal and ending of Gaara's relationship with Yashimaru sent Gaara down a path of pure hatred. Naruto's effort in teaching Gaara the importance of having loved ones reignited that spark in Gaara to try to build genuine connections with others. In the end, Gaara's wish came true and he became the Sand's Kazekage, the single most important shinobi in the Sand Village. However, his goal wouldn't be fully realized until he awakened after being resurrected by Lady Chiyo and Naruto. Seeing everyone surround him and greet him with the love that he had been longing for was a surreal feeling. Gaara finally felt genuine love from another person for the first time in his life, or so he thought. During the 4th Great Ninja War, Gaara reunites with his father thanks to Kabuto's reanimation jutsu. Gaara's father, surprised at his growth, reveals to Gaara that he ordered Yashimaru to lie to him on the night of that assassination attempt. He tells Gaara that the sand that protected him was not because of his mother's hatred or some curse, but because her love for Gaara was so strong that it willed the sand to protect him on its own. From the very moment Gaara was born, he was loved. Looking at Gaara's story, the important thing to take away is the importance of always being open to not only giving love, but receiving love. The truest sign of strength is the ability to navigate through negativity while practicing positivity. Succumbing to negativity and hatred will lead you down a lonely path and only bring about more negativity into the world. Also remember that while sometimes it may feel like you're alone and not loved, that's not the case. Sometimes you just have to give yourself that love until you start to feel it from others. With that being said, if you made it this far, I love you and I'm out. Peace.